Hey, K-drama fans, we are back with another movie review, this time the American indie film Minari. Come and join us.
So welcome to our clubhouse. If you are new to our channel, please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell because we are Ajumas. We have thoughts and we talk about all sorts of things to do with Korean dramas, Korean films, and this time about a Korean American family.
Exactly. This movie is Minari, and just to give a quick synopsis, it is. Minari follows a Korean American family that moves to a tiny Arkansas farm in search of their own American dream. The family home changes with the arrival of their sly, foul-mouthed, loving grandmother, who we will all recognize, we K-drama fans, amidst the challenges of the new life in the rugged Ozarks. Minari shows the undeniable resilience of family and what it really means to make a home. So Minari stars Steven Yeun, who we all know from The Walking Dead, and two of our favorite Korean drama stars, right? Han Ye-ri and Yoon Young-jun. She is so much fun. We've seen her in all sorts of things. I particularly remember her from Masters in the House, and she was the Spitfire. So I was definitely expecting this character for sure.
And also in Sense8.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I loved her in Sense8, right? Yeah, oh my God, she was so much fun. So yeah, I was already expecting the feisty grandma that we got. So I was super excited. So Marisa, what did you think of Minari as overall for a film?
Oh, I thought it was a beautiful film. I thought, you know, my parents emigrated to Canada in a very different time, actually, the like late 50s, early 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And even though their particular story is really different from this family's story, what was universal and really goes beyond the bounds of, you know, being an immigrant family is the sacrifice that you make for your family or in the name of your family. So I thought it was beautifully rendered. I thought by being so specific about this family, it told a much bigger story.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what do you feel like was the bigger story that was there? Because I found the movie to be very specific. And so I was curious, can you expand on kind of those larger themes that you found with this family specifically?
Well, I think it was a story of sacrifice. And I was reading that the director, Lee Isaac Chung, made the film as an acknowledgement to his parents, as an acknowledgement and as a love letter to what they went through and the decisions they made, you know, for their family. And I think that's why it's resonating to a much broader audience and why it took home the big prize at Sundance last year, because it is about sacrifice and because it is about what you do for your family. And the resilience that we as humans all have within us, that big things happen, tragic things happen, medical things happen, workplace things happen, and things in nature happen to affect your family, but you wake up every day to a new dawn and you just keep going.
Right. Absolutely. So when we kind of look at the whole story overall, which one was your favorite character? Because I thought there was some very wildly different characters in this film. And so you could have the taciturn dad. You got the mom who I felt was the kind of the heart for me in the film. You got grandma. You've got the wacky neighbor who's the farmhand. Like who did the little boy? Who most resonated with you in this film?
I think the mom. I think I adore Han Ye-ri so much. We last saw her in My Unfamiliar Family.
Oh God, she was so good in that. I love that one so much. It was so good.
She's so beautiful. But what we see, I think, with a lot of Korean actresses is a delicateness to their beauty. But Han Ye-ri's beauty is through such strength, and it's a quiet strength. And I think that's really what came out in this film. And just there was this one scene where she's like measuring rope. Yeah. And then she's got a board. And you're like, I don't know, she's fixing something.
Right. I felt the same way. I was like, what exactly is she doing? Like, okay, all right, cool. What crazy thing needs to be fixed in this trailer in the middle of nowhere that she is pulling out this rope, right? Yeah.
I know. I'm like, is she making steps to get up into this like trailer mobile home? But she was making a swing for her kids. And it was just like, oh, so beautiful.
It was. I love that moment. That was a really good moment for sure. Yeah. So with our grandmother, Yoon Young-jun, like she was just so her that it just was like, I just was like, it was just so fun. Like, she was just such a fun character. I was really sad that she had to take, I thought the most vibrant character in the whole show had to be somehow sidelined. That was probably my biggest disappointment in that story, for sure.
Oh, well, it's kind of universal, right? I mean, do we all have someone that kind of like snappy in our family? I did. One of my aunts, who was a nun, came over to visit from the Philippines, and my brother and I were like, is she allowed to drink? And she was playing Monopoly with us and cheating and swearing and, with her tumbler of scotch. We were like, she's not a nun. That's not how nuns behave.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
I know, but
I did not get someone like that in my family.
I saw an interview and they refer to Yoon Yoo-jung as YJ. So now I just want to call her YJ.
Right? I just want to know her well enough to call her YJ.
Exactly.
Sure, right? If you want to watch a really fun thing with YJ, she was in an episode of Masters in the House where she basically was an acting coach to the 4 guys, and it is amazing. It's amazing. And the guys were terrified of her, and it was fantastic. So if you ever get a chance to watch it, it is, if you need a little bit more of her, after watching this movie, I highly recommend grabbing those 2 episodes of Masters in the House.
Oh my God. I can't imagine Lee Seung-gi being like scared of her.
They were all terrified of her because she is a presence times 10. Like, there's no getting around that, for sure. Yeah.
I love it. Alan Kim, who plays the young, the little boy David, had such a great rapport with her. And I know he's really kind of been a bit of a breakout star with this project. Because the connection between the 2 of them, how initially he was like, she smells like Korea. I'm like, isn't that what every little kid says about their grandparent? It's like, they smell old. And it's so, but boy, that was a sassy relationship.
That really was a sass. I think that's what it was. It was such a sassy relationship. And then when it finally started to, like, bond, it was kind of torn away, and I was kind of like, I was a little bummed out about that. I mean, we've been watching Korean content long enough that I shouldn't have been that surprised by it, but I still was like, boo. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
So this movie was nominated in the Golden Globes foreign film category, and that is just like huge outrage just across all of the social media because it's an American film.
So the Golden Globes, which is run by the Hollywood Foreign Press, by the way, this is, these are journalists from outside America who are working in Hollywood, talking about Hollywood, taking a very American film about the most American story, which is the story of immigrants and immigrant families. Because more than 50% of the film was in the Korean language, they said it was ineligible for a category, any category other than foreign language, which makes no sense because it's American produced, it's written and directed by an American filmmaker.
Right.
And this is a time of cultural reckoning. This is a time when immigrants are maligned and thought of as other. So for the Hollywood Foreign Press to not acknowledge that this is an absolutely American film was just, the cries across the internet were just big and fast.
They were. And it was kind of a nice thing to see that, like, so many people agreed with the outrage with how ridiculous the Hollywood Foreign Press was by classifying this movie in that category. So with that being said, like, what do you think culturally this movie moving forward as it kind of makes its way through the award season and it starts picking up and garnering? Is it kind of like, and it's a little bit different because obviously Parasite was a Korean film, but this is kind of the other side of that. It's an American film, but mostly in Korean. So, and what's that experience like? So what do you think culturally is good? What do you think this film could possibly do as we move forward?
Well, it's recognition of cultural identity. And what does it mean to be American? And what is the American dream? And it's about, when you reduce it to the fact that this is about a family being a family and going through hardships and going through love and going through tragedy and going, like I said, waking up every day and continuing. Well, it's interesting because I grew up in Canada where we don't have a melting pot. We have the Canadian mosaic where you keep your cultural identity. And that's what makes Canada beautiful. I'm not saying there aren't problems. I'm not saying there isn't racism there. I'm not saying that there aren't issues between, you know, different culture clashes. But generally speaking, in the zeitgeist, what you've got is a really different approach. And so I think whenever art can move people to recognize and remember and understand that at the core, we are about families and we're about love and we're about support, no matter what language we speak, no matter what color our skin is, then that is the role of art and film.
And I think this one did a really nice job with that. I thought it really did cover those beats really, really well. Though I have to ask, Marisa, what was with Crazy Paul with his cross up and down the road? Like, that was the one thing where I was just like, what is happening? And this seems like a very specific quirk to give a person in a film. So has anyone seen if that was a very specific person that Ji Chung actually, like, was that someone in his life? Do we know if that's specific? Because that was like, whoo, okay, sure.
I'm curious about that too, because I've watched some interviews with the director, and he mentioned that when he was creating the film, he wrote down 80 different stories or different moments, things that happened in his life. Like the fire grandma setting fire really happened. And I don't know, I haven't come across it yet in an interview to see if Will Patton's character was real. But my husband grew up in a farming community in a very small town in Ohio, and there was some wackadoo characters.
Okay.
You know,
I just was curious because I did not. I grew up in like Metro Detroit, so it was a much more of a Mount Clemens is hardly cosmopolitan, but it was not. We were not out in farm country, so you know we had people on top of each other all the time. So I was just that. Paul was. I was like, Paul is a very specific character that I have never encountered, and that seemed really specific to me.
I think maybe it's a bit of a comment that the people who are really different and we really way out there are, guess what? He's your neighbor. He's your American-born neighbor. It's not the people that came from across Asia. You know?
Oh yes, like, no. I can totally speak. Yeah. So we were able to watch it because A24 Films actually put out some virtual screenings, and they all sold out. So hopefully because of that, they're going to have a whole bunch more, because this film really is just kind of taking Hollywood by storm. So hopefully you are able to check it out, because it's definitely one to watch. Marisa, do you have any final thoughts or any final words that you want to say about Minari before we wrap it all up?
Yeah, I've been watching some interviews on YouTube, which are great because there's a voiceover for the end of the film that was cut. And it's really fascinating once you've seen to watch these interviews and to hear what that final voiceover was. And it's all about, I guess in Korean it's pronounced Minari. But for those of us who are American, Minari. But it's all about the plant itself, and but they didn't want to over romanticize, the metaphor, I guess. So, but the film, it's so beautiful, and it's multi-layered. I think the simplicity of it is what is beguiling, but it's so much deeper than that, and so much more nuanced, and I think it's just a beautiful film.
There you go, you guys. Minari from the K3. I'm Jen.
I'm Marisa, and thank you for being a part of this. Please join us in our K-Drama Clubhouse. We go live every Sunday to chat about all the K-dramas that we're currently watching.
And if you kind of want to check out what we do talk about when we do K-drama stuff, you can check it out right here. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.